Warning: the following episode of That Mental Ginger Show contains strong language and adult themes.
Alright, troops.
Hello and welcome to That Mental Ginger Show with your host Andrew Durning, aka The Mental Ginger. Well, my 7 faithful followers, we just keep on rolling on this great train of life, and once again I have got another fantastic guest. It is the one, the only, Justin Mason. Justin, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm surviving. I'm surviving just about in this wheel of life, and just
That's all we can do.
yeah, I'm just surprised how well the podcast's going, the traction it's been starting to build up. I'm like, you do realize you're just listening to a fat ginger guy sitting in his dining room, right? Eh. I think it's down to the caliber of guests. I think that's what it's got to be. Well, we've just had some great guests, and now we've got another one. I'm just getting so lucky.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, nah, I'm glad that you came on, buddy. I'm really grateful to have you here. So what I like
Yeah.
to do is to get my guests to start off by telling the audience their origin story, because if there's one thing we all have in common is our origins. So,
Mhm.
Justin, for my 7 faithful followers, please tell us your origin story.
Well, I grew up in a small town in the state of Alabama. Basically, it was stoplight to stoplight.
Hmm.
I mean, we had a grocery store, a convenience store, and that's about it. It
Would you
was
say it was
literally,
a sweet home, Alabama?
yes.
Sorry, I just had to get that joke in. Just had to do it. And a good thing, I broke it in at 1 minute 50, and now the rest of the time is all yours, brother. Fire away.
I felt it was coming.
We all knew it was coming. We all knew it. The second I seen Alabama, I was like, yep, I'm ready.
Yep.
It's a slow ball, but you got to take a swing sometimes.
Oh, there you go. It's a knuckleball.
Yep. So, carry on, my friend.
I mean, it was one of those everybody knows everybody towns. I mean, you couldn't do anything without somebody telling your parents, "Hey, I saw your kid down there. Guess what they were doing?" Type of thing. So, and I grew up in church. I grew up in a religious family,
Mm.
and it was one of those things where it was a church where my great uncle was the pastor.
Mm.
My grandfather was the only deacon. My dad was the secretary. My mom was the worship leader.
Wow.
My aunt was the children's church
Yeah.
leader, and all of the people who went were my sister and my cousins. So, just one of those things. So,
So what type of church was it, like in terms of the sermons? Because you get the ones that are all all singing, all dancing, and then you get the kind of traditional white guy church, which is you're all going to hell. Have a great day.
that's what it was. Yeah,
Ah,
basically. If our church or that church had a pamphlet full of rules.
hmm.
You can't wear shorts. You can't wear gold for ornaments. You can't go to baseball games. You can't go to movie theaters. You can't go here. You can't go there. My parents don't wear wedding bands.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's going to cause a lot of issues, like when they're out and they're like, "So, not married, eh?" Well,
Yeah.
no, we're not like that.
It did with a friend of mine that I grew up with. I'm a drummer and he plays drums
Yeah.
also. And he was one that all of the state youth or all the state events he did all the drumming for.
Hmm.
And he was married at one time and never wear a wedding band. And so he would go out and, he wasn't a bad looking guy. I'm secure enough in my masculinity, I can say that. He
Yeah.
wasn't a bad
If a
looking
dude's
guy.
handsome, well, a dude's handsome. No worries
Exactly.
about that.
So he got a divorce about 5 years later. His wife started cheating on him because she was like, "Hey, you're getting hit on by all these women because you won't wear a wedding band." And of course, she didn't grow up in that church
Yeah.
or anything. So it caused an issue. So yeah, like you said, it causes issues.
Yeah. So how did it? I mean, he was getting hit on, but did he do anything about it?
Not really.
So he didn't do anything about it, but he was still faithful. Yet she had the ring and she was doing the messing around.
Yeah.
In a way, that kind of backs up your church in a little bit. What he didn't have the band, but at least you knew he was pure. What in that
Right.
sense?
Exactly.
So man,
Yeah. I mean,
that's messed up,
it,
man.
it
So
does.
what?
It does say more about her than it did about him. But
Yeah, pass on my condolences to your drummer friend. But if it's any consolation, he's a drummer and he's good looking. It'll be flying. It'll be flying. What he will be all good in the hood. Mm. Mm.
but another thing with that is, they don't even believe in divorce and remarriage. So I mean, you get divorced and you're screwed, basically, unless you want to.
So was he like cast out? Like I'm just envisioning like a South Park kind of style thing, where they all put him on a donkey and spit on him, and he just goes away.
No, they don't mind divorce,
Right?
If it's for the right reasons. If it's not just, hey, I'm getting divorced just because, she grew fat and ugly.
Yeah.
As long as.
In fairness, I don't think that should be a justification for any divorce. It's like,
no,
I mean,
not at all.
If that was the case, my wife would have divorced me about 3 days after we got married. So because it was a case of like infidelity, I'm guessing like the church were okay with it. Well, not okay as in like get divorced, but they're just like, well, we understand.
But do not get remarried, because in the eyes of God, you're still married.
Yeah. So
essentially, like until death do you part.
Yeah. So he's like a social kind of he's like a married leper.
Yeah.
It's like you just sit on the bench until she's dead. Yep. Doesn't matter how. Right. Well,
even if you're 80 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like if you're that desperate, we can hire someone to take care of this, and then you're not in the eyes of the Lord anymore. Then you're friggin' swinging free and easy, my friend. What type of religion did your church class as? If you don't mind me asking.
So it was the Church of God, basically.
All right. No, just because I always hear like different, because you've got Catholic Church, Protestant Church, Mormon, all that kind of stuff. And then you've just got ones that they're just we're just a church and we think Jesus is cool, and as long as you're being a good person, fire away. At least that's the kind of one that I subscribe to.
Well, luckily, that's what I'm a part of now.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So how did you what was the kind of thing that made you kind of get away from that cycle?
So living at home with my parents, it was, you go to church every Sunday and you go to our church every Sunday. Because you live under our roof, you live by our rules.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's what I did for 19 years of my life.
Wow.
And then, so we had some people who weren't family actually join the church. They came from other denominations and came in, and we had these worship leaders, or we had these people a couple who, she was a great singer, and he was and still is, an extraordinary piano player. I mean, he could hear the first measure of a song and could play it just start to finish, no problems. He just had an ear for what was going on and everything. And so one day they came up and they said, look, we feel like God's leading us somewhere else. So we're going to go. We feel like our time here is done. And there were many comments of, well, if God's leading you somewhere else, you're not following the same God we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, I was like, okay, that's not Christianity. That's not loving your neighbor. That's not all of that.
Yeah. And
so I just looked at them and I was like, you know what? I'm out here too. That's not how I was told to act. That's not how I was told to love people. And, people who I look up to or looked up to, if they're going to act like that, if that's what Christianity is, I don't want to be a part of it, because that's hate.
Mm-hmm.
That's not loving people.
Yeah. So how did your parents react to that? Well, you eventually got leaving the fold, so to speak.
I mean, there wasn't anything they could do about it in a sense. I mean, I
Yeah.
hate to sound like that, but I had made up my mind. I was an adult at the time.
Yeah.
I still am, but
Yeah. Yeah. Once you kind of cross that barrier, you can't go back
yeah,
away.
right. Unfortunately,
Well, mentally,
um,
you can be stuck there, but yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
but yeah, it was just they didn't like it because they lived by the raise a child up in the way that you would have them be, and they won't depart from it.
Hmm.
But you know, at the same time, if you're not following what you're preaching, in a sense, you're preaching this part of the Bible, that part of the Bible, but you're not preaching the whole thing as it
Hmm.
was meant to be taught. What kind of church? That's more of a cult than a church,
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah. So we'll get on to what the performing part of you, the drumming side of it. So what drew you to the drums?
Um, when I was growing up, it was you're either into boy bands or you're into, the grunge scene, Nirvana, Bush,
Yeah, that was
Metallica, stuff like that.
that's messy.
And yeah, mine too.
Nice.
And so my uncle was big into like 70s, 80s rock, AC/DC, Meatloaf, stuff like that. And I just loved the drums in that era of music,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and just such power behind the drums. The drums were a significant part of that.
yeah.
And I just always grew up just playing and stuff. My grandmother had a hearth in what was her den at the time. It's now her
Huh.
bedroom.
Wow.
And I would always sit on that hearth like it was my stage and
Mm.
just take pots and pans and decorations and stuff and just play. And
Nice.
so my parents were always like, we need to get him a drum set. And at
Mm.
13 years old, they finally did.
Oh, brilliant.
But their one caveat was it's got to be in the church. We're not going to have it in
Right.
our house. So luckily, the church was about a mile from our house.
Hmm.
And back in those days, you could ride your bike anywhere you wanted to, especially in a small town like what
Yeah.
I grew up in. So I would go to the church and practice every chance I got.
Imagine what the church would be going like. Well, what are you practicing? And in your head, you're trying not to say it's Metallica's one. You're like, it's Jesus Loves Me.
So I actually had a band that we considered ourselves Christian,
Mm.
a Christian band, but we were along the lines of Skillet, Under Oath,
Mm.
Maylene and the Sons of Disaster, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we were rehearsing in the church because that's where my drum set was. And
Mm.
my great uncle, who was the pastor, came up and he goes, "Yeah, I don't know what they're playing, but it ain't Blue Book hymns or anything."
You should have just said it was Creed.
Yeah, there
You
you
should have
go.
said it was Creed. Played them at bit of Creed, and then be like, right, there you go. Or Kansas, bit Kansas.
Yeah,
That would have worked as well.
or you too.
You too, definitely. Well, all that type of stuff. What you could have just said that,
Yeah,
and we'd be like, okay, fair enough, fair enough.
we were a tad bit heavier than that though.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have known. They wouldn't have known. You would have known.
Yeah,
What? So yeah,
right.
or your own conscience be it, but they'd be fine.
Yeah.
I'm always in favor of blissful ignorance. So who would you say was like your musical inspiration, like drumming wise?
So I had quite a few when I first started playing drums. Actually, playing, I was listening to a lot of Under Oath. So
Hmm.
Aaron Gillespie, who is the drummer and clean vocalist for them, he was one of my influences. The Rev from Avenged Sevenfold, he
Hmm.
was a big influence on me as far as drumming wise. And then I kind of delved deep into, who played for Led Zeppelin, who played for this band, who played for that band. And John Bonham
Hmm.
is just like one of the godfathers of just anything you could think of drumming wise. So John Bonham is one. Mike Mangini, who played for Extreme, Um, he plays for Dream Theater currently.
Yep, you're speaking my language, my friend. Speaking my
Yep.
language. Well, I
So
always,
just guys like that.
yeah, my favorite drummer was always Travis Barker, Blink 182. Like
Yeah,
the first time that I heard him play, it was like, wow, like this
I
is stuff
know.
this is stuff I have not heard on it. And it wasn't even like he was using a double bass kick or anything. It was just,
Yeah.
it was crazy. Like, and I remember going to see them live and just seeing him like come down from the roof, like descending while
Hmm.
playing this stuff so kick-assly. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
like that plane crash did not stop you. Good on you, man.
No.
It was
Tommy
amazing.
Lee was another one who did crazy stuff like that too from
Hmm.
Motley Crue.
Yeah, definitely. Like they were, like I've always felt like the drummers were like the Peter Parkers of bands because with great power does come great responsibility.
Definitely.
Do you not find that like whenever when I did my brief stint of music in high school, I remember I was doing a music exam. Like, and I was
Yeah.
doing a practice run and I slipped. Like, I was on the xylophone, what of all things. Like, so I was on the xylophone and I missed a note and I was like, oh damn, what? And I stopped. Like, and he went, it's okay, blame the drummer.
Yeah.
I was like,
That's what I tell
the
people.
drummer wasn't even playing.
Yeah. That's what I tell people all the time. It's like there's good things about being a drummer and bad things about being a drummer. Like if you're playing guitar, you can mess up and nobody will notice. If
Hmm.
you're playing drums, you're playing the loudest instrument on the stage.
Hmm.
Somebody's going to notice if you mess up or slip up.
Yeah, but they're going to notice like a bit, like maybe not like to the uneducated ear, but
Yeah.
if you do see it, sometimes you'll be like, oh, notice they missed that bit. But
Yeah.
what about
And
here's
I
the
used to be bad. I used to be bad about like letting my face tell the story. So if I
mm,
messed up, I would always like, oh man. Now, you know,
mm,
close to 20 years into playing, I'm comfortable enough to just kind of laugh stuff like that off.
yeah, you just do what I call the constipated face. Like because if you're in the zone, you just like
Yeah,
that, so they can't tell what if you're trying to take a shit
right.
or if you're just really really into your groove. And it
I'll have
works.
to try that next time.
Yeah. So, what about any kind of heavier bands with like the double bass kicks, like Killswitch Engage? What did you start progressing, like looking into them with their type of style of drumming, or were you just like, I like this style, this is my lane?
Yeah, when I started that first band, I kind of introduced myself into double bass playing, and bands like I Prevail were starting then.
Yeah,
Um, I'm trying to remember who else. I mean, Avenged Sevenfold had. I mean, there wasn't a pattern on their songs that wasn't a double bass pattern.
hmm,
So, yeah, I for the last probably 15 years I've been playing double bass, and um, a lot of I would say the Rev was a lot of the influence in that, just because he was so musical in the things that he did. He didn't just play this straight pattern.
hmm,
He was very syncopated with the
yeah,
things that he did with the guitar and with the bass, and he was very musical because he was a songwriter also.
yeah, yeah. They always seem to think that like drummers can't write songs, and I'm like, that's a load of BS, man. Load. Like, some of the best
Half
songs
the
I've heard
songs
are written by drummers.
half the songs on my band's Fatherless Nation album were written by me.
Nice. And since you brought it
So
up, we'll just segue straight into your band. This is the section where I will go, sell, baby, sell. Who's your band?
so
What do you do? What's your album? Where do you record? Where do you recorded it? Have you recorded it? The floor is yours, my friend.
yeah. So Fatherless Nation by Nevermind the Damage was a about a 3-year project. We started originally we started with our original singer, and some things happened with him and we had to fire him basically.
Curse those singers.
And yeah, I know.
I know because I
Well,
was one.
divorce got the best of him. So
See that divorce, honestly?
no, just
There's a reason why God didn't
stick
like it,
with it.
guys. Come on.
Exactly. That's going back to the beginning. And so we kind of shuffled around. We found another singer and rewrote our songs, and we went and recorded a little demo, 3-song demo, and that singer quit because of some mental issues that he had.
I can't fault that, in
And
fairness. That's the whole point of this podcast.
yeah, and which we understood, but it was like he quit in the middle of a huge show. Like
Yeah.
we were playing at one of the bigger venues here in Alabama, and we were opening for a national band.
Wow.
And he just kind of halfway through the set, just like dropped the mic and said, "I'm done,"
Wow.
and walked out. And so we're all sitting there looking at each other, going, "What just happened?"
Yeah.
And so we found our current singer,
Mhm.
and that's when we actually buckled down and finished Fatherless Nation and all of that. And there are two songs on Fatherless Nation that started in the beginning of Nevermind the Damage and actually carried through. Wait and See and Freedom, which are two that I wrote.
Nice.
And so a lot of the riffs, like High and Dry, were rewritten multiple times. Hypocrisy was rewritten multiple times. And then Numb and Monster were two that were kind of ideas, but they weren't finished. So we actually got to work on them start to finish with the current singer. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of, I guess, iterations of Nevermind the Damage.
Yeah. But it's good though. It shows your journey, like of how you've started to where you are now.
Yeah.
So when's the album coming out?
This one has actually been out. It was out. It came out in 2018.
2018. Well, there you go. Like,
Yeah.
can you get it on all the media
Mm-hmm.
devices like Spotify, YouTube, all that kind of stuff?
Yep, it's everywhere.
Nice one. So, what about the kind of upcoming projects for your for you? Where's 2022 going to take you?
So we're actually in talks about finally doing a second album. We in over the pandemic and everything, we wrote and released two singles, Kill the Messenger and Something to Whine About. And so those are kind of the start of what's going to be the second album.
Nice.
So our hopes are early to mid 2022 that will be done.
Nice one. Again, we'll just be on all the available devices and stuff.
Yes. Yeah, the two singles currently are as well. Just Google or look up Nevermind the Damage and you can find all of them on there.
Yep, and after this, like send me the links. I'll put them into the description, like for anybody that's wanting to check it out.
Sure.
When the video comes out for everybody. So it sounds like you've got quite a lot on your plate, which is good. What, and you've also got like you've got a family as well. How many kids have you got? Just one?
Two.
Two?
Mm-hmm.
Two? That's same as myself.
Yeah.
But
8 and 3.
8 and 3. Well, mine's are both 3. Well, they're twins. So
okay.
Yeah, that's a joy. So how do you find like doing like your drumming and like the gigs on top of like being like a husband and a father? Like, I mean, I always found it took me a little while to get that kind of rhythm set where I didn't feel like I was, abandoning my kids essentially, going, Daddy's going to go and do something for himself, and then afterwards you go, oh, I feel guilty that we did that thing.
Yeah. That's one thing that makes it tough. I mean, especially when I was playing, 100, 125 shows a year before COVID, it was just like, man, I'm giving up my weekends with my family, with my kids, all of that. And yeah, I was making some extra money, but I'm also sacrificing this time. And so not playing gigs, I've been able to coach baseball. I've been able to coach. I'm coaching basketball for my oldest currently, so
nice.
Just being able to do stuff like that is completely different,
So you feel like you've kind of been able, the pandemic was good in that way, you were able to kind of claw that time back, so to speak?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it was for everybody. I mean, I know some musicians who are playing with big bands and they were like, yeah, this is the first time I haven't been on tour in 10 years. Wow. And so I'm actually getting to focus on my family. Yeah. I'm stuck at home, which sucks because the income from touring and stuff like that isn't coming in. But, I've got that family time. I've got that time that I've missed.
Mm-hmm. No,
And so I
definitely.
think, yeah, I think that helped. I think as horrible of a thing as it has been, it was a good thing at the same time.
Yeah, I think it put a lot of things in perspective for people because a lot of people have
Hmm.
now really kind of woken up and realized I don't want to do the jobs that are just going to keep me ticking over until I'm dead, like, because we don't know when
Right.
that's going to be, what COVID could have got
Hmm.
us and killed us. It's like I want to do something that's going to make me happy and keep me going. And in a way, that was kind of the slight blessing. Don't get me wrong, COVID was an absolute get, but I think it helped unplug some people from the matrix, so to speak, which was
Yeah, and it kind of made me step back, and I started two podcasts during the pandemic myself, drumming podcasts.
well,
And so it just kind of made me go, what do I want to do? Like
mm,
what do I want to do? I know, I want to continue drumming, and I was able to do that because the church that I play drums for, we went strictly online, and I was the drummer during that time.
mm,
Um, so I'm like, I know I still want to play drums. I know, I kind of want to revisit teaching drums,
mm,
but what do I want to do beyond that? And so I started the Drum Shop podcast with a good friend of mine, where we just talk about, kind of stuff that you asked me, who are your influences
mm,
drumming? We have an episode on that. What sound are you looking for as a drummer? We have an episode on that. And
yeah,
then one of the companies that I endorse, the owner asked me to do a podcast strictly for them, the Creative Percussion Podcast, and it's basically an interview show. I get artists on, and I just ask them about, what do you use from Creative Percussion? What got you started
mm,
playing drums? All of that, to kind of not only um, show off the brand, but show off the artists and the people who support that brand. So
yeah.
it's been interesting, learning how to do that, because as you know, podcasting isn't, it's not a 1 day thing. It's a, you know, episode to episode thing.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. Like it's something that you kind of learn it as you go, like, I guess.
Hmm.
So, again, for the listeners at home, drop the two podcast names and where they can find them.
Okay. It is the Drum Shop podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Um, there are a
Just
few others that I can't
yeah,
remember. Yeah, just wherever. And the Creative Percussion podcast. It's on the same platforms. I use Red Circle to send them out, so they
mm,
they put it everywhere.
that's great, man. Look, it's good that you've been able to kind of use the that time, want to get everything kind of rolling for you and different wheels are set in
Yeah,
motion. Like, nah, it's been brilliant talking to you, man. Like, and just hearing like the stories that you've shared and the stuff like always about your religion and that, like being so open to tell me about it. I really do
yeah,
appreciate it. I appreciate everybody's stories that they tell me that they feel they can be comfortable enough talking to me. So we're
absolutely.
we're starting to round up on time. So I will
Hmm.
ask you like the final question that I ask all my guests.
Okay.
If you could give one piece of advice to anybody that's struggling with mental health issues at this moment in time, what would that piece of advice be and why?
Don't go through it alone. That is, with anything mental, that's the worst thing that you can do, because going through something like that alone, um, it makes it worse, because you force yourself to feel like you're alone when you're not really alone.
Mm,
Um, and I think that's one of the biggest, not to get dark here, but that's one of the biggest reasons that people commit suicide,
yeah.
is because they feel like they're alone and they don't reach out to somebody for help,
Mm,
because when they think they're alone, they force themselves to be alone,
mm,
and that just kind of digs them deeper into a hole. So I mean, reach out to somebody. Tell your family how you're feeling. Tell your friends how you're feeling. They're not going to shun you. They're not going to push you away.
mm,
It is a disease, but it's not a contagious disease. You
mm,
see people who oh well, he's got this and this, I'm going to push them away. They're not. People aren't going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people, especially nowadays with everything going on pandemic wise and all of that, people want you to reach out. So if you're struggling with anything, reach out to somebody.
Yeah. No, definitely, man. And it's something that never gets brought up enough is the rates of suicide. Like
Yeah.
they go skyrocketing. Like the pandemic especially. What
Hmm.
it caused a lot of it. What and a lot of people were taken away from this, not just from COVID, but from the repercussions of COVID.
Yeah.
And that's also why we do what we do with these podcasts to try and get shed that little bit of light and just give somebody a wee bit of time to just step away from all
Hmm.
the madness.
Yeah.
Brilliant advice, man. And I really appreciate what you being so upfront about it. So now we come to Alabama's favourite news segment, Ask Andrew Anything. Now, for my faithful followers, this is where after me grilling the guest for 30 minutes and 45 seconds, we get to turn around and the guest gets to ask me a question. It could be something as ridiculous as who's your favourite character from Hey Dougie to who would win the fight between the colour green and the colour purple. So, Justin, do you have a question for this mental ginger?
Well, it's unfortunate because you just listed my two questions that I was going to ask you. So I got to find another one now.
Oh man, it's like we're in sync, brother. We're just sort of
I
on the
know.
same wavelength.
Yeah.
I mean, at first, I think the colour purple would win against green. Well, if they were both anthropomorphized and ready to roll, I think purple's just got that slight darkness to it.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little biased because green is my favorite color. So
Mm.
I think green would be my
Yeah. Well, in fairness, like
green would
blue.
be my choice.
In fairness, blue is my favourite colour, and I'm a Celtic fan, and for football wise, and their colours are green and white. So I'll
Yeah.
probably get a lot of shit for saying that purple would beat green. So and also there is no favourite Hey Dougie character. Like they're just all awesome.
So my wife and I, a lot of our quality time is spent watching junk TV and like just that's what we do.
Hmm.
So this is something that I ask some friends also. I've asked friends this just to kind of break the ice or whatever.
Hmm.
What fictional character from any TV show, book series, whatever, do you think would be the most boring in real life?
The most boring in real life. So we're talking
Yeah.
like a character that you'd be like, oh, he looks so awesome, but then it turns out it would just be really, really rubbish. Or
Yeah,
like,
the only need for their special ability or whatever is on that television show, but you bring them into real life and it's like, why are you farting lightning or whatever?
uh, I would have to say probably Cliff from Cheers.
Okay.
Because Cliff from Cheers was unbelievably monotonous and boring on the show. So
Yeah.
imagine how boring he would be in real life being around that guy. You watch those series back, and no wonder Carla wanted to kill him. It was one of those ones that I was just like, yeah, if he wasn't turning up and just basically being a certified alcoholic for 11 years, next to
Yeah.
and his best friend was someone who probably couldn't remember any of their conversations, aka Norm, because he was always hammered. And yeah, I really think that Dr. Fraser Crane missed a trick of like picking up on him just to analyze him for years and
Yeah.
years and years, because it wouldn't have mattered if he got better. There would have been something.
Right.
Could have made a lot of money out of him. But yeah, that's mine. I would say definitely, definitely Cliff. If it was like for a superhero, I'd because I'm an MCU guy, I would probably say Vision.
Okay.
Because Vision is kind of like hanging out with a toddler all day. Like a
I can see that.
very smart toddler, but it's just one that's
Yeah.
just like, I require more information. Tell me about this. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
What's this? What's that? And I get enough of that from my kids. It's like it's like, come on, guys. I'm just I'm tired here. Well, me and my friends were actually discussing this last night that we never got the principle of like Scarlet Witch and Vision. We were like, what? Why are they together? What? And I just basically said it's because she just couldn't afford a vibrator. But
I mean,
the whole point of a vibrator is the reason you have it is that you don't want to talk to it afterwards.
that's true. Yeah.
So they should have just like disabled his vocal cords. Just made it so much easier.
See, I'm a DC television show guy and a Marvel movie guy.
I like the DC television shows as well.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Like, what's your favorite DC TV show?
Currently, I loved The Arrow.
Yes.
I wasn't a fan of really how they ended it.
Basically, from
but
about season 3, there was like, I was like, we're on the ropes here. Season 5 was brilliant. And
right.
but there were just too many kind of in betweens where you were like, this is good, this isn't good, this isn't as good. Yeah, I'm not. Well, I loved series 1 and 2. I think those were its kind of peaks. And I loved series 5, but it was just too much up and down, especially when it started making the whole Olicity thing. I was like, just go away, we don't want that.
But I think if I was to go back, not to the current DC, Smallville was always my favorite.
Yeah, Smallville kind of set the benchmark.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you watch some of it and there is like proper like cheesy 2000 tones to it. And then obviously the women that got convicted of being ringing in for a sex cult. You're kind of like, not sure about that. But at the same time, she did a good job acting.
Yeah. And I kind of wish they had used him in, when they came back to Superman and Lois. Yeah. I kind of wish they had used him instead of the current Superman. But he was in Lucifer, so
yeah, he's not bad in fairness. The guy that plays Superman, Tyler Hoechlin, I think his name is.
Yeah,
he's not bad in fairness. Like he's I've seen worse.
Yeah,
but I like that Brandon Routh got a chance to redeem himself. As Kingdom Come Superman, I was so glad. It was just because I always thought he was a good character, Superman, just in the wrong movie.
Yeah, and I like that they brought back Dean Cain for Supergirl for a little while.
Yeah,
that was a good choice.
That was a really smart casting. The fact that they had Dean Cain and they had not Tori Spelling, geez, that's Beverly Hills. You know what I mean? You had the Lois who was playing, Mon-El's mum.
Yeah.
Terry Hatcher, I think that was it. Terry Hatcher. So you had her brought back as well. I was like, it's like a wee reunion, but they just never got them both on the screen. So I always like those kind of things where you get that wee kind of symmetry with it, and you go, there he is, or there she is.
Yeah, and it's also cool to look back at. Oh my gosh, his name left me. The guy that plays Jay Garrick on The Flash and plays Barry's dad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what's his name?
I know who you mean, but yeah, it's for the life of me, it escapes me.
But being the original Flash, it was awesome to see him actually come to it.
Yeah, and also the fact that he got the Kevin Conroy Batman and like the cool Infinite Earth crossover thing. He got to do it live action for once. I was really, really happy with that. I thought he deserved this time, that wee moment.
Definitely, yeah.
Everybody seems to skip past him when they talk about best Batmans. I'm like, he was my childhood.
Yeah.
He was my Batman. Don't take him away from me. He's played it longer than any other Batman.
I think that they should do a live action Batman Beyond. I don't know if you ever watched that, but yeah,
loved it. Loved it.
That was probably my favorite one because I loved Will Ferrell as Terry.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's one of those was I always look back and like, that was Will Ferrell, really?
Yeah,
and it was crazy.
Or not Will Ferrell. Not Will Ferrell. Oh shoot, what's his name? He played Eric on Boy Meets World.
Oh, Fred Savage.
No, the brother.
Oh man,
He was also the voice of Ron on Kim Possible.
Oh man, Name escapes me.
It's Will something. I don't know why I said Will Ferrell.
Yeah, because I was like, Will Ferrell, really?
Yeah,
But yeah, any listeners, if you can drop a wee
yeah.
comment,
If you can correct me.
if you can correct both of us and then say that we're absolute morons, we won't judge you for that. But yeah,
Not at all.
I would love to see a Batman Beyond in live action. I think TV series wise, like Kevin Conroy would be great as the older Batman.
Yeah.
And if we were doing it like DCEU, it would have to be Michael Keaton. It would have to be.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Well, I think that
I
would
don't
be.
know how I'm going to feel about Robert Pattinson as Batman.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that, yes, Twilight is something that everybody will associate him with, but he has done some really solid work since then. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
like The Lighthouse, you don't think that like a film about Robert Pattinson, and basically then the guy who's best known for the Green Goblin and Spider-Man, like Willem Dafoe,
Yeah.
would be something that's entertaining, of them stuck in a lighthouse, but it's actually really suspenseful and really, really well acted. So, they have proved that they've got the chops in them. It was just to make money. And if we were able to half-ass it for a payday, we would.
Exactly. Will Friedle was the guy's name, not Will Ferrell.
There we
Will
go.
Friedle.
Will Friedle.
I mean, I can see my own confusion.
I can understand it. And now the comments section, we can be redeemed. I will deactivate it just to be on the safe side.
Awesome.
Well, man, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on and just having a little bit of a banter about like the Marvel DC. It's always good to get a fellow scholar of the superhero arts. They're so undervalued and underappreciated. To Martin Scorsese, I say screw you, even though I love the film industry. To Ridley Scott, I say once you make a decent Alien movie again, then we'll talk.
There you go.
And don't be so concerned with just trying to redo Adam Driver and Matt Damon as a Brokeback Mountain style film. We're past all that.
Let's do something original.
He did do something original, and then they're like, oh no, this mobile phone generation. See, if it was that good, the mobile phone generation would tune in because they have access to literally everything on their mobile phone.
You know, I haven't watched it yet, but a friend of mine said that show Ghosts is probably the most original thing that he's seen in years.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my list.
Yeah, you're like me with the kind of dad list where we've got all this stuff we've been recommended. Yeah. We're just stuck on constant loops of like Peppa Pig and Paw Patrol.
Pretty much, yeah.
We're stuck in that type of loop now. I am hoping
that and Bluey.
Yes, Bluey. That I thought Bluey was a boy for so long.
I did too.
Yeah, they really, really played it smart, messing with the color schemes, and then you find out Bluey's a girl, and I was like, man, you just made me realize I'm a sexist, you son of a bitch.
My kid's childhood was a lie.
I'm ruined. Colors don't make sense anymore.
But purple would win against green in your book.
Purple would always win against green, and it's a mix of blue. And it's a mix of blue and red. It's like two superpowers put in the one.
There you go.
That's it. My logic will get there. It may sound stupid, but my brain is a bit nuts for a reason. That's why it's called That Mental Ginger Show.
Yeah, method to your madness.
Yeah. Well, Justin, man, it's been brilliant having you on. I've had a fantastic time. You've really put a smile on my face today, and believe me, I've needed it. So I
appreciate that.
So until next time, my 7 faithful followers, I have been Andrew Durning. This has been Justin Mason. Check out his music. Check out his podcasts. I didn't want to say that I had because I didn't want to seem like I'm sucking up to him, but yeah, I have done and I can vouch for it. So, they class it as stalking. I class it as market research.
There you go.
So, and if you're ever in Scotland, feel free to crash on my couch. It's a comfy couch. I'm pretty sure I'll be crashing here the night. So until next time, take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.